Welcome to the details. Ghana's bilateral lenders, through official Creditor Committee, have approved government's deal with Eurobond holders. This will now pave the way for government to launch debt exchange program to restructure the more than $13 billion debt. George Rafi has more.
This approval by the committee made up of Ghana's bilateral creditors was to ensure that there is fair treatment in terms of what has been agreed with the Eurobond holders and the bilateral creditors. Stephen from the Finance Ministry announced that this is also part of the agreement with the official Creditor Committee on the whole debt framework, that the agreement in principle, the Eurobond holders, should be approved by the committee. The Finance Ministry also added that as part of the broad framework, this approval was needed before government can make any progress on this debt restructuring with external creditors. For some, the development could mean that government's targets of closing the deal before the end of September this year could be realized.
Let's bring in the thoughts of an economist. Professor Peter Korte is the director of ESA and joins us via Zoom. Thank you very much, Prof, for joining us. Will you describe this approval from the official Creditor Committee on the Eurobond deal as welcoming?
Indeed, it is welcoming because too much uncertainty is not good for the economy, it's not good for anybody, it's not good for investors, and therefore it is welcoming. If you cast your mind back, this has taken us a long while to get this far, so it is indeed welcoming.
Right, this is also coming on the back of a similar approval from IMF. What will this mean for Ghana's whole external debt restructuring?
So now government is setting about what it owes and how it's going to pay. Investors, including Eurobond holders, also know how much haircut, how much sacrifice they have to make, and also the certainty of getting their resources. And I believe for you and I as well, because once there is certainty, you see some stability in the exchange rate, you see stability in the overall macroeconomy. So I think for all of us, that brings some good signal.
Right, Prof, would you say you are surprised at the pace at which this whole negotiation with external creditors have progressed?
I am not surprised at all. If you look at our aid architecture, it's quite complex. In fact, one of the most complex in the sub-region. We have about over 23 bilateral, multilateral donors. We have official creditors. We have Eurobond. It's quite a complex, and negotiating with all of this, some under a different framework, the IMF, World Bank, G20 framework, whilst others have to be engaged bilaterally. So it's taking so long, but then it also depicts the complex nature of our debt architecture.
Right, you talked about the cedi, but I want to find out your thoughts on arguments that the Ghana cedi has failed to stabilize firmly against the dollar, despite concluding the deal with external creditors. What do you make of this?
I think we haven't concluded. We are still in the process. So one cannot be very certain that the cedi will immediately stabilize. Maybe it could have been worse if we hadn't reached an agreement, because the degree of uncertainty would have heightened, and that would have made our exchange rate very volatile. So it's early days, yes. Let's wait and see in the coming weeks what happens.
Right, let's move away from this and talk about the mid-year review. What should be government's approach in helping restore confidence in the economy?
I think overall, we look at our tax structure, our revenue and expenditure, but particularly the tax structure. There are too many taxes at the ports. We need to harmonize some of these taxes and ensure that it is business friendly. So I would want to see, I don't want to see any new tax introduced, but rather what measures are we put in place to ensure tax efficiency, to ensure that we are able to rake in as much revenue as possible. Of course, this agreement with the official creditors, Eurobond holders, etc., also brings us some fiscal space. Some of the loans or debts we had to service have been restructured. those who have suspended payment, we have to pay. So you would want to see how all of this plays out and how we're able to get some fiscal space. Given that we are in election year, you also don't want the government to go beyond the target budget deficit that it has envisaged within the medium-term framework. And lastly, we are pursuing an IMF program, implementing an IMF program. To what extent would the budget speak to the IMF program, how well we are on track on the key triggers that are specified within the IMF framework?
Right, but Prof, one last question before you go. What happens if these taxes are not, eliminated or prevented, or, like you said, what if your call is not heeded?
Well, I mean, if my point is, even if they are not removed at all, we don't want to see new taxes because it's certainly going to kill the private sector. And I don't think, you're looking at government's own programs and policies, it wants to kill the private sector. So certainly, the government will hit to the core, not to introduce higher taxes, but rather measures to make the existing ones work. And I think we've seen some of such statements from the vice president, current vice president, and flag bearers of the MPP make some of this statements. So I believe it has to carry through. It has to start from now. We want to see more of this now than later.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Peter Kortey. He is an economist and also director of ISEM. Moving on, the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT, is defending its position on the move to sell 60% stake in its hotels. According to the State Pension Company, the operations of the hotels have not been profitable, hence the need to sell them off. Addressing journalists in Accra, Chief Executive of SNIT, Kofi Osafo-Mafo, insisted that it is the best decision to help SNIT.
We've been through all of what I've noted, and we've taken the decision that a strategic investor is the way forward. And we would benefit not only from a substantial amount of capital coming from an investor, but also private sector management. The issue with hotels is that it's not simply about management. If you've had a hotel which over 20 years you've not invested in, you will become uncompetitive. And we've not had the surplus funds to do that. So some of these hotels have become uncompetitive, hence the need for capital. And that is also a very important part of what we need to make our hotels businesses competitive. It's about capital. And we cannot ignore that position with respect to the performance of the hotels.
Meanwhile, the total contributions to the SNIT pension scheme for last year reached almost 7 billion Ghana cedis. This was captured in the State Pension Trust operations data seen by Joy Business. There's more in the following report.
The almost 7 billion cedis gotten ending last year represents a significant jump in terms of what the scheme had in 2022. Out of this, contributions from the private sector stood at more than 4 billion cedis, representing 113% increase over what was expected in 2023. However, in terms of public sector contributions, SNIT was able to mobilize 2.8 billion cedis, just about half of what was targeted by end of 2023. Based on this development, SNIT was able to save about 1.4 billion cedis. This is because it ended up by paying 5.4 billion in terms of total benefits paid compared to the almost 7 billion cedis that came in. Active members of SNIT pension scheme also stands at 1.9 million ending 2023. Compliance rate in terms of payment was quite high, especially with the private sector. The data showed that SNIT is making some progress in growing the scheme and retrieving arrears.
Let's now get onto the phone lines and speak to the Executive Director of Africa Center for Retirement Research, Abdullah Mashood. Thank you very much for joining us, Abdullah. surprised by these developments, or it was expected when it comes to contributions for last year?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm not surprised at all because let me take data from 2009. If you take data from 2009, of course, it has always been like that, where we record what we call cash flow surplus. We compare the total revenue against the total cost. You realize that the total revenue is always higher than the total cost of benefit. That is how it has been from the beginning all the way until in 2016. So for the first time, the team recorded what we call a cash flow deficit in 2016. And since then, from 2016 up to this point, it has been fluctuating. When I say fluctuating, sometimes you have the total cost being higher than the total revenue, and sometimes you have the total revenue being higher than the, what do they call, the total cost. So it's been fluctuating from 2016. So I'm not surprised if we just take 2016 and we are reporting that the total benefit that was paid is less than the total amount of contribution that was paid. It's nothing new.
What do you make of private sector contributions and the rate of compliance compared to public sector payments?
Yeah, so practically, when you look at the distribution, we have the private sector made up of about 64% of the establishment population. Then we have the public sector made up of about 36% or something like that. You know, practically, you would expect that in terms of compliance, you would expect that, of course, one would have expected that you have any challenges as far as, public sector compliance is concerned, because we are looking at government. The government is someone who is supposed to be compliant with the provisions of the Social Security law. But, of course, when we come to compliance from the private sector, you don't expect automatic compliance, or you don't expect everybody to be compliant, especially given the difficult economic situation that we have found ourselves. But what has to happen is that the team has to sharpen its compliance enforcement strategy. That is, if they have to take in all the contributions that we do. But of course, all of this, the balance that exists between the total revenue and the total, liability or the total cost is feeding exactly into how sustainable or healthy the scheme is. And for you to be able to express an opinion on how these indicators play out, you need accurate information on the balance that exists between the revenue and the corresponding liability year on year. The revenue here is made up of contributions collected plus investment income, whereas the liability is made up of cost of benefits plus administrative and operational costs. If we have had a lot of discussion about the investment performance of the scheme, and we all can say that, of course, I keep saying that out of the last 2 years, it has posted only 2% real returns on their investment. The rest are negative. So that clearly tells us, how the investment performance of the scheme is. When we come to administration or operational costs, we have all agreed that the scheme is using so much to administer the scheme. If you are using close to 20%, of the workers' contribution to be able to manage the scheme, that is very, very, very high. And I think we need to get a very good balance between the revenue and the liability in order to improve the financial situation of the scheme. So as for, reporting revenue being higher than benefits paid in 2023, it is nothing new. It's something we have had in time.
Right, but based on the numbers, can we say the scheme is not doing that bad, especially when there was some surplus when it comes to contributions and benefits payments for last year?
Yeah, that was what I indicated earlier. If you take, I can go back. If I go back, the picture will be the same, but I just want to take a recent period. If you take from 2009, we have always had cases where the, the revenue is higher than the benefit paid. It has always been like that. The only time we had a cash flow deficit where the amount of benefit paid was greater than the revenue was in 2016. And I'm saying that since then, we have had fluctuations. Yeah,
right.
So, I think the team is making efforts in order to improve the contribution collection situation.
But if they're trying to improve, Abdullah, if they're trying to improve, in your opinion, what should be done to sustain the performance?
Yeah, so we have to look at the total picture. You have revenue on one side made up of contribution collected plus investment income. In this case, they need to enforce their compliance enforcement strategy and also to look at, getting the single investment to perform. When we come to the liability, demography really in the two colors, because we have a retirement rate people are eating that. So somehow very difficult to control the amount of benefit that you feel. And, we also have lots of the first die in mortality. And, once you die, you have to down. So cost of benefit very, very, very.
Right. Thank you very much, Abdullah Mashood. He is the Executive Director for Africa Center for Retirement Research. You're still watching Business Live with me, Emma Davis. We'll take a breather. We'll be back with more. Welcome. Now, as part of its brand promise, Toyota Ghana is resolute to provide Ghanaians with vehicles which cater for all needs. The unveiling of 3 new exciting vehicles, the Toyota Vitz, the all-new Toyota Urban Cruiser, and the Toyota Land Cruiser 250 Prado, Toyota Ghana says, underscores its dedication to providing a seamless mobility experience. Here's more.
The unveiling of the 3 new models by Toyota Ghana is expected to enforce the car maker's commitment to delivering top-tier vehicles that cater for the diverse needs of its customers. The new Toyota Vitz is designed to offer affordability and low running costs with a stylish design for young professionals and urban commercial drivers. The Toyota Urban Cruiser is crafted for those who crave exploration without sacrificing functionality. It features a robust design and advanced technology. The new Toyota Land Cruiser 250 Prado epitomizes luxury, power, and performance in a large SUV. The Prado's 110-liter diesel tank ensures longer and uninterrupted journeys. Here is Andrew Lamte, Head of Sales Operations at Toyota Ghana.
The Vitz is a well-known model on our markets. It's the Urban Explorer. It's versatile. It can go to all the nook and crannies of this city and across the nation. So you are looking at fuel efficiency, and of course you're also looking at comfortability. Now the Urban Cruiser, yes, it cruises the urban roads on our city. Basically, it comes as a very versatile vehicle, very good ground clearance, considering the nature of our roads. And of course, when you're also cruising on a third road, it's the best for the country. Then we have introduced the all-new Land Cruiser 250 Prado. Now, this is one of the game changers for the CV, the commercial vehicle market. Of course, it's been long in coming, but the wait was really worthwhile. And therefore, we expect that this will serve the needs of our customers very well.
On his part, Managing Director of Toyota Ghana, Koji Yanaka, reiterates Toyota Ghana's commitment to deliver excellent customer service.
As we all know, Toyota is the #1 brand in terms of automotive all over the world. We are very confident. We always care about the customer, the happiness to the customer, which comes back to the quality of the vehicles, the efficiency of the vehicles, and the after service we offer to our customers. So please, whenever you want any reliable vehicle, don't hesitate in visiting our showrooms. We have all the models available for test drive, and we are ready to discuss on the prices and the service package, everything. So please, you are always welcome.
The new models underscore Toyota Ghana's dedication to providing a seamless mobility, which reflects the company's ongoing commitment to offering the best vehicle purchase and ownership experience.
Now let me take you to the Ashanti region, as Anglo Gold Ashanti Obuasi Mine has commissioned the Obuasi East Examination Printing Center to support students unable to pay printing fees. The project is funded under the education pillar of the mine's 10-year socio-economic plan at a cost of 2.3 million cedis. There's more in this report.
Prior to the construction of the exam printing center, the Obuasi mine, through the community investment strategy, sponsored the printing of mock exam papers to support Obuasi basic school students preparing for the BECE. While this was helpful, the education director revealed the model was unsustainable. The assembly, through its education directorate, believed a printing center would be the most practical solution to support printing of exam papers to support final year students. Kwabena Nketia is Obuasi East District Director of Education.
This is one of the pro projects that AG has brought. Somebody may say, oh, for printing house, there is this child who is even finding it difficult to get a school uniform, get a sandals to school. How can this person pay a fee? So if you have a printing press that is going to take care of their books, printing of their books, reading materials and examination materials, I think it's something that we have to welcome it, and it should be emulated in all the districts.
The printers installed can print, sort, arrange and staple up to 100 pages per minute. According to the mine, the center will contribute to a more organized and reliable examination system which will benefit students. Edmond Oduro Ejei, Community Relations Manager at AGA, noted the mine is committed to achieve its SEDP intermediate outcome of improving quality education.
That's how we part company tonight on Business Live. I am Emma Davis, but for more news, do log on to myjoyonline.com. Have a good evening.